Very good. How are things in Israel?
Things are good. I think, I mean, the government is taking this situation very seriously. So it seems, at least to us, it seems, I think, sensible. And as long as the numbers support the approach, so I think it's good. The UK, how are you guys in the UK? We hear many things.
Yeah, I think we're guessing our way through this. I think the politicians know a lot less than the scientists who are guessing. So I don't know. It's the answer.
Yeah. Listen, we're all praying for your prime minister. I think the entire world, you know, no matter what politics are, I think everyone wants him to be healthy and well.
Yeah, I think he's better now. I'm not sure. The country would have been hugely affected if something had gone seriously wrong with our prime minister, like him or loathe him. But I think it would have been a huge problem. But he's okay, and we'll just see. We just watch. We're watching numbers now. It's a numbers game.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it is. And where are you based in Israel at the moment?
So yeah, we live in Binyamina, which is between Haifa and Tel Aviv.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, it's a small town.
Very good. Are you on the coast?
Yeah, very close to the coast. Not on the coast itself, but a running distance. So you can actually jog to the coast. It's the beach is less than 5 kilometers away.
Oh, very nice, very nice.
Yeah,
I used to have a great aunt lived in Michmoret.
Oh, that's a beautiful location.
Yeah, somewhere in between. Okay, good. So, are you working at the moment? You working from home?
Yeah, so I was called up for military service until the holiday, and I'll be back in Technion immediately after Passover.
Right. And what's your role in Miluim?
So I'm working now in Pikud Ha'oref, which is the home front command.
Yeah.
And working mainly on, or the role I was given is more in disinfectant.
Very good.
Hi.
Hello. How are you?
Very good. How are you both?
Good.
Good, good.
Are you surviving the crisis?
Yes, I think I'm not far from you. I'm roughly about 8 kilometers away from you. So we're in a similar circus, but Avi sounds like they're doing quite well in Israel.
They are, definitely. You know what the unfortunate statistic is? That more British Jews have died of coronavirus than all Israelis. Now, considering that there's less than 300,000 British Jews, right? That's an amazing statistic. It means we're doing something very right in Israel, as the professor was saying.
It's heartbreaking. I think what's most heartbreaking is in the old age homes all around the world, seeing the fatalities is just, it's just so painful. And when we understand this disease a little better, I think we'll be able to save them first, I hope. It's not simple when people age.
I think the big problem would come if there is a second round of the disease. If we release too early and a second round comes, and then I think people will be hugely concerned there. So governments are going to have to keep us in longer until they are absolutely certain.
Yeah. I think we'll soon be joined by people. So is this the webinar about vaccines? Yes. Here.
Yeah. And you'll be talking a little bit about the work you're doing?
Yes, yeah, I will. I'll be explaining a little bit about the virus, a little bit about work we're doing here in Israel, and accepting questions and answers from the audience. We've seen in the past that many people have a lot of questions, and some can be answered, and some are important questions other people should also hear. And I think that's the goal of this webinar today. I do see that it seems that there are some people online. So
let me get an update from Alan.
We have already 76 participants that are listening. So I think soon we'll be able to start. Yeah.
Okay, let me get Alan onto this. Right. Okay. That's okay. So I think we're going to start now. I'm going to just a quick introduction. If everybody is listening now. First, I want to thank everybody for joining us. The Technion UK works solely on behalf of Technion Israel. Technion Israel, as we know, was established in 1912 and Israel's premier high-tech university. It's one of the first institutions of higher learning in Israel. I think it was the first institution, and certainly showed forward thinking that the future of Israel is entirely and heavily dependent on its ability to innovate in technology and utilize the brain power of the country. And that's shown to be very true today, and specifically today, where we need people like, I'm going to introduce now the Professor Avi Schroeder, people like that to help us through these crises. So Technion is worldwide, is known worldwide, and it's although it's currently closed, has 20 laboratories still working on trying to help on immediate remedies for COVID-19. Not just vaccinations, but everything that comes to that, and Professor Avi Schroeder will talk about that. Includes all the additional equipment required to keep our medical staff safe, and for example, masks, and come up with new inventions, robotic inventions that mean people can keep at distance. We will have the possibility for people to ask questions after the initial talks, but I'd just like to firstly introduce our ambassador, Israel's ambassador to the UK, Mr. Mark Regev, a fantastic ambassador who I've had the pleasure of working with a number of times. Mr. Regev has been the ambassador since 2016. Previously, he was the chief spokesman for our current prime minister in Israel, Bibi Netanyahu. Mark Regev was born in Australia, for those who don't know, moved to Israel in 1982. Thank you, Ambassador, for joining. I'd also like to just introduce Professor Avi Schroeder, who's online today. Professor Schroeder is a professor of chemical engineering at the Technion, where he heads the laboratory for targeted drug delivery and personalized medicine technology. Avi is the author of more than 50 research papers, delivered hundreds of lectures internationally, personally came up with 17 patents, and the co-founder of several startup companies in Israel, based on discoveries and of which relate to finding vaccinations for new viruses. Avi is also the recipient of more than 30 national and international awards. So I just want to thank everybody for joining us, and I wonder if we could ask Ambassador Regev to give a few words.
I'm happy to do so. Can you hear me?
Very well.
Yes, I'm nodding, so you can. Well, first of all, I want to start off by saying thank you to Technion UK for bringing us all together today. It's a sign that by using technology, we can overcome the barriers of social distancing. And that's very important. So I thank Technion UK for bringing us together today. And I thank Technion UK for what it does every day, because you are there supporting the important work done by the Technion in Haifa. And you know, when we look at Israel, and this year on Yom Ha'atzmaut, we'll be celebrating 72 years to Israel's independence. We're looking at what is ultimately a success story. And Israel's success is our success, and Israel's success is clear. And today, Israel is a powerhouse of global technological innovation. And because of that technological development, Israel is increasingly prosperous and increasingly powerful on the global stage. And that's a good thing. And the Technion at Haifa, the Technion is one of the core motors, core engines in pushing forward Israeli technological and scientific development. I mean, as Paul said, it's been doing so for decades. But if Israeli science is renowned internationally for its excellence, if Israeli technology is renowned internationally for being on the cutting edge of so much development, it's not in small part because of the Technion. The Technion is a center of excellence, globally recognized as such, and is helping to create a better future, not only for Israel, but for all humanity. And I know that people at the Technion and in other places in Israel are looking for solutions to coronavirus. Solutions are not there yet. Maybe we're close. But I do believe it's possible. If you think about it, Israel has been on the cutting edge of so much technological development over the last decades, it's quite probable that some of the solutions can be found in Israel and maybe even at the Technion. So I thank you for all getting together today. I think it's a wonderful thing that you're doing. It's a wonderful thing that you're doing in supporting the Technion in Haifa. And it's my pleasure to be part of this, it's not a podcast, what do we call it? Part of this Zoom meeting. So I wish you all well. And of course, Chag Sameach.
Thank you, Ambassador, and Chag Sameach to you. Just before I introduce Professor Avi Schroeder, just want to remind you that the Technion has a number of other events. Please have a look online and see what we're doing. I am Paul Charney, Chairman of the Technion. I'd like to introduce Professor Avi Schroeder to speak. Remind there will be the ability to ask questions after his talk. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, Ambassador, also for your warm words. And I think today we see very clearly that diseases know no borders, and an international effort needs to be placed in order to solve these big issues. This is a type of matter, COVID-19, which we've never seen before. And I think as that, it raises great questions also about the future and also about how we do science and innovation. And a lot of the questions I've already seen online, people have asked me, is how fast can we be in bringing a solution? And this probably also raises needs for changing slightly the way or accelerating the way we do science. And I think that's one of the goals of what we have today. So by no means is this webinar supposed to be only a lecture. It is not a lecture. This is a question and answer session in addition to some examples of research that we're doing today on trying to solve COVID-19, to cure this, this new illness we have. And as the ambassador said, the Technion has been at the forefront of technology for many years. Nobel Prizes, a lot of Israel's most advanced technologies came out of the Technion Israel Institute of Technology. But for the past several years, the Technion has marked the new goal. And that is within, I think, the realm that we all agree on, which is Tikkun Olam. And the Technion said that many of the technologies which we've been using in the past for trying to secure Israel and to protect ourselves, we need to put this power, this human power, this brain power together now to save humanity, to save our globe, to save the world in medicine, in agriculture, in better practice on a global security. So not only about building, but actually building of health infrastructures for all of us and for all of humankind. So I'd like to maybe start with a couple slides, but encourage each and every one to type in questions, and I'll answer them. So maybe I'll start with a couple slides, and then I'll go and answer questions and answers some of the questions that some of the questions that people have raised. So I'll share with you my screen. 1 second, I need to get approval for sharing the screen. So, okay, so we can raise the first slide. Let me tell you a little bit about the work we do in our lab until so because of safety of Zoom, because of the safety of Zoom, each slide share needs to be, okay, here, we're good. Needs to be approved by our IT host. And I'd like to show you what the Technion looks like on a normal day. And this is some of my group, my research group at the Technion. It was mentioned, my name is Avi Schroeder, and I'm a professor of chemical engineering at the Technion. And my group focuses on the interface of nanotechnology and medicine, and how you can actually use nanotechnology for improving medical care. We work within the Department of Chemical Engineering, but the people in my group are actually come from many, many different disciplines. We have medical doctors, and we have chemists and biologists and engineers and biomedical engineers, and people from different disciplines. You can also see that gender-wise, we're also pretty mixed. And we have people from different backgrounds, Jews and Arabs and Muslims and Christians and Hindu, and I think that's the most fun part about science, is actually having people from different mind thoughts. And our daily work is usually about developing new medicines for patients. This is an example of a technology we invented several years ago for treating a disease called osteoarthritis. And we invented nanoparticles that are injected directly into the joint of patients that have osteoarthritis. And after these particles are injected into the joints, they actually lubricate the surface and protect the cartilage from degrading. Because of this innovative technology, patients that in the past were not able to walk properly, can now get in and out of a chair, climb up and down stairs without any pain. And when we tested this technology, initially we tested it only in the laboratory to see that we can reduce friction and wear in cartilage. But then we went on and we tested this technology also in patients themselves. And we saw that over periods of, here I show you up to 30 days, but actually 3 months in patients, we were able to improve their function compared to the best medicine that's on the market. And of course, that was a great feeling. The patients were doing much better, suffering less, actually taking less pain medication. And we had a great tool for treating osteoarthritis. And this is when the Technion, I would say the pre-coronavirus days, where we were working on many different diseases. Osteoarthritis is one. Cancer, we have great focus on cancer. And our third focus is on neurodegenerative diseases, such as Parkinson's disease and Alzheimer. But today, the work in the lab had to take a shift. And in fact, this is what our lab looks like today. Here it is, peeking in through the window in the door of our laboratory at the Technion. You can see, one, the lab isn't as full as it used to be pre-corona days. We usually have 40 people working in this space. Now we have to oblige to the slight distancing we have to have in the lab. And you can see that all our researchers are actually wearing masks on their face as they work on developing new treatments for coronavirus. It's not that we didn't work in the area of viruses before, but our work is now much more emphasized towards treating COVID-19 specifically, which was a surprise for, I think, most people on the globe. We knew that something would hit us, but we never could imagine exactly what it was. And at Technion, we were fortunate in our group to have assessed that one of the areas where we're in great need and in a lack of technologies is the field of viral diseases. Specifically, I would want to maybe just explain to the audience the difference between a virus and a bacteria. On the left-hand side of your screen is a drawing taken just from the internet of a virus. And on the right-hand side is the drawing of a bacteria. A bacteria is a cell by all means. It can grow if you give it food, it can grow and duplicate. And we have antibiotics for treating different bacteria, but it's actually a living organism. A virus is nothing like a bacteria, and actually is a parasite that sits, it needs, in order to duplicate, it needs to enter a host cell, such as the cells of our lungs, and that's where it hijacks the cell and starts duplicating and creating more and more and more viruses inside the body. As a nanotechnology scientist, there's also a great difference between a bacteria and a virus. Viruses are nanoscale, meaning their size is about 1/1000th, 1/1000, the width of a hair we have on our head. So if we take a hair and we look at its width, the size of each virus is about 1/1000th, 0.1% of the width of a hair on our head. Bacteria is about 1,000 to 10,000 times bigger than any virus we have in nature. So bacteria are much larger, and viruses are actually nanoparticles that hijack cells inside our body. They're natural nanoparticles. They hijack cells inside our body and create these terrible diseases. So going back to the pre-corona time, one of our guesses, or not guess, estimations was that viral diseases will become a huge issue for humanity. And we asked ourselves, where could we actually leverage our knowledge and already notice an area where viral diseases are very impactful and have great technological needs? And specifically, we found that in aquaculture. Now, I know this is Passover now, and many of the people on the line also are kosher eaters like myself. So many of you may not even recognize this animal, but this is a shrimp. And this shrimp is still small before it's ready for eating. And one of the issues that shrimp actually suffer from is viral diseases. And viral diseases are a great threat for the shrimp industry. And as you know, shrimp also provide protein and dietary fats to people in Asia, in Europe, and in the United States. It's actually a very fast growing market around the world. And one of the things we noticed is that viral diseases are attacking shrimp farms all around the world. So several years ago, several meaning 5 years ago, all the shrimp industry in the Philippines was wiped out by a virus. A couple years ago, the shrimp industry in Iran and other countries, South America, Australia, was hardly hit by viral diseases. And we decided to invent an antiviral technology that will boost the immune system of the shrimp so that it's immune to the viruses. Now, because viruses change very rapidly, we say they mutate or they change their performance. By the way, also COVID-19 changes rapidly, and the COVID-19 we have in Europe is slightly different than the COVID-19 we have in the United States, which is slightly different than the COVID-19 which initiated in China. So it's constantly mutating and adapting. And because of that trait, we actually need to have a medicine that can be adaptable for the changing virus every time. And just to put this into context, we all know that the flu injection that we got last year may not be effective, or probably will not be effective for the flu we have this year, because the flu, which is also a type of virus, changes every year. So we asked ourselves in shrimp, could we actually invent a technology that would be effective for treating viral diseases in shrimp? And we went on and we developed a special feed which was then spun out of the Technion to a company called Via Aqua through the water. And this was actually a special feed that boosts the immune system of the shrimp and allows better treatment of viral diseases. So I'm getting notices. I actually can't see your questions right now, but I'm getting notices that there are a lot of questions, and I'm ready to start answering. I'll just say that one thing, that we developed the food. It's ingested here inside the body, and that's where it induces an immune response, which doesn't allow the virus to multiplicate or to reproduce inside our cells. And just to show how effective this technology is I'll show only one graph, and you can see here the number of live animals that survived a viral attack, a deadly viral attack, with and without our antiviral feed. So you can notice that with the antiviral feed, this is the orange graph right up here, almost all, more than 96 or 97% survived, compared to 0% that were struck by this extremely deadly virus. So I'm going to take a pause here before we continue talking about work we're doing in the lab, and I'll take a couple questions right now. So Sophie, do you want to read the questions?
Yes. Hi.
Hi, Sophie.
Hello. Hello. The first question is. Wait a second. Okay, hello. Is it in fact the case that the herd immunity is the ultimate goal and the end result for all our countries, even if countries manage to keep cases low, like Israel, through mass isolation? Once they reopen the border, surely they will import the virus unless the population has achieved some form of immunity through the vaccine or the infection itself. Herd immunity seems the ultimate goal through one means or another. What do you think about herd immunity?
So I would say that I'll just explain. Herd immunity means that if I was exposed to the virus and I recovered, then I'm supposed to be immune to the virus. And this herd immunity in coronavirus is an assumption and not a fact, meaning that already in South Korea, there are at least 71 cases of people that have been documented to be sick with coronavirus twice. They had coronavirus once, they recovered, and then a month later, they got coronavirus again. And it's a big question, is it their initial coronavirus, or were they actually reinfected again? So the herd vaccination, or being infected and then having the ability to actually resist the disease, is an assumption that no one really knows the answer to yet. And in Israel, one of actually the Israeli approach is slightly different, is also to try and reduce the number of people that will reach the intensive care units. We know how many what number of breathing machines we have in Israel. And we know that if we keep the number of patients at every time low, we'll have enough breathing systems and also the ability to save as many patients as possible. And as you know, in Israel, we just crossed about 115 or 120 patients. That's still a lot of people and very painful. But compared to other countries of our size, that's less than the number that usually pass away on a daily basis. Here I'm talking since coronavirus outbreak.
So is herd immunity also achieved through the vaccine, isn't it? Is the vaccine creates herd immunity?
So if once we have a vaccine, and for example, what we give the shrimp and what we're developing also for people, that is a vaccine. And that means that if you're exposed to the virus, you won't be infected. We do not have a vaccine yet for COVID-19, and the internal vaccination after being sick, which is the herd immunity, hasn't been validated yet to actually protect people from a coronavirus, meaning that we just don't know yet if a person that was already infected will then not be infected again. Oh, Sophie?
Sorry. So to the shrimps, you give food additives. Is that the same vaccine but a different delivery method?
Yeah, so for the shrimp, because we couldn't in a shrimp inject one at a time, that wouldn't be effective, and would be pretty hard to catch them inside the pond. We invented a food that the shrimp really like, and the vaccination is ingested in the shrimp's body, and that actually induces the vaccine for the shrimp. For humans, I would have to say would probably be, at least for the first step, it will be different. It would be injected. It's much faster and more efficient to inject a vaccine. If we think of it also today, for all the people around the globe, if we have a vaccination, such as we have for hepatitis B or for other viral diseases, then it still would take a long time to make enough, to actually manufacture enough for all the people on the globe, so we could actually vaccinate them so they'd be safe.
So since we are talking animals and many of us have pets, do you think that our pets can transfer the virus from as person to person, and can pets get infected, or can they infect us?
Yeah, great question, Sophie. So we see that dogs are not very good transfers of coronavirus. However, cats are very good transfers of coronavirus. And we also know that coronavirus may have been in a fish market. So the question is still up. Are fish or shrimp or other seafood animals, can they actually transfer the disease? Now, I would say on two fronts. So first front is your house pets. It is important to keep the house pets healthy at this time. And that's one side. And especially cats, not to let them just wander around, because they can come into the house and possibly transfer it to you. In addition, the fur of a dog, for example, if a coronavirus patient may cough on a dog and the fur may have the virus now on it, and you come and you pet that dog, and then you touch your face or that, then there is a chance that you could actually keep it. So I would say it's important also to keep the hygiene of our house animals. And on a totally different front, totally different front, I would say that at this time, when we have the virus outside, to try and cook all the meat that we eat and fish, also to be on the safe side. You know, the virus does not survive heating. So if you heat it to 70 degrees Celsius for about 30 minutes, the virus will not survive. So I would say try to avoid uncooked or raw meat at this time, and eat everything cooked.
Some viruses have proved very difficult to vaccinate against. For example, 40 years later, there's still no vaccine for HIV. Give us some hope. How do you rate our chances of successfully finding a vaccine for COVID-19?
Yeah, so I think we have pretty good chances of vaccinating. I think we'll have to use different techniques for vaccinating against COVID-19. And personally, I believe it will be if you brought the HIV example, then we know that HIV treatment, which of course is not perfect, but it's an improvement, is a cocktail-like approach. And also, we may need a cocktail-like approach for treating against COVID-19, meaning that newer technologies that we have today that we didn't have in the past. In the past, we took a virus, you weaken it or you kill the virus, and then you regulate your immune system towards that virus. That may be effective here, but we may also have to boost the immune system with additional technologies.
Our friend Ori is asking the question that you mentioned COVID-19 is a global challenge. Can you elaborate? What is happening in terms of research collaboration, both globally and domestically? Plus, how is IP protected in these circumstances, if at all?
Yeah, so those are great questions. Two very important things. So one, are we collaborating enough? And I would say that we're not. We are collaborating, but not enough. And I would even say that we need to unite under several umbrellas in order to invent or to solve this issue. Today, the way science is structured is that there are thousands of labs, and each lab works autonomously on an issue. Of course, there's more force when you work together. And at Technion, the way we address this is that we decided to create an umbrella of all the research done, so that all the research is done under one umbrella, and that the researchers themselves, we help each other in order to make sure that if one is missing technology or one has a question, we actually have a very short and simple way to communicate with the other researchers in order to get answers and to help solve the problems more efficiently. Regarding the intellectual property, so this is a major issue I think that exists right now. And how can we protect it in the future? My personal approach is that at this time, the humanity is actually under attack, and that we should be a little more flexible with what we do and how close we protect our core technologies. And we should work for the greater good is more important than actually trying to protect your intellectual property at this point.
Great, thank you, thank you. Okay, next question from Jean. You mentioned that the mutation of the virus is a viral mutation usually, but not always, weakened with subsequent mutations. Is it currently happening with COVID-19? Then it's weakening as far as we know?
So the COVID-19 is absolutely mutating. It already has 4 different types of COVID-19. Usually they don't talk about this on the news for 2 reasons. One is that it can even further scare people. But I think also because it's a very technical term, but the COVID-19 we have, for example, in the United States is a different COVID-19 than we have in Europe. It's not very, very different, but it has significant differences between the two. Will a vaccine for one also be good for the other? For example, will the vaccine for COVID-19 type 1 would be the same as COVID-19 type 2 or A and B? They're lettered. And that's a question that we'll have to answer. The way we solve this usually is by trying to find areas in the virus that are kept between all the different types so that one vaccine would be good for the entire world, or that we actually put in the vaccine components of all 4 types of the virus so that we have protection against all 4.
Is asking, what is so unique about this virus, and why is it more deadly, and why is it so different? What is the RNA interference, and what is it?
Yeah, so 2 questions here. So the question number 1 is, why is this, or what's different about COVID-19? And I think this question is very relevant for Passover, right? We always ask, Ma nishtana, what is different? And so for COVID-19, Ma nishtana, or the difference in COVID-19, is that it's much more contagious than any virus we faced before. And we see it. Look how it started in China, and today the entire globe is affected by this, or the outbreak, sorry, was in China. And today the entire globe is actually affected. And so it's so contagious that if, for example, I sneeze and they're like small, I don't want to discuss the people, but a small droplets come out from the sneeze, each one of those droplets alone are enough to make another adult contagious of the disease. Meaning if someone sneezes or coughs, and small droplets come out into the air, and that droplet even hits our eye, not only our mouth. That's enough, or nose, that's enough to make another person contagious of the disease.
Irina is asking me, or asking you, wearing a mask, does it protect you? Does it matter what kind of a mask? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so the mask absolutely protects you. The mask protects both ways. One protects other people. If you're ill and coughing, then the cough doesn't reach them. And if someone else is ill and and someone sneezes, then the cough or the sneeze will be stopped on the surface of the mask and less taken up. So that helps a lot. Protecting the nose and the mouth have been proven to actually be very, very protective.
Jonathan is asking if is there any truth to the suggestion that the new strain of coronavirus troubling us now was somewhat the result of Chinese research and experiments in the Wuhan laboratory?
Yeah, I prefer not to answer that question. I think it's a big question out there, and today we need to focus on the solution of coronavirus. I think that all the countries around the world are facing a major issue, and if it was either invented or it mutated, I think we all see the consequences of how important it is that we have a strong scientific response. Look, everything around us is shut down, and we need to improve our abilities to actually counter such outbreaks of pandemics.
We know that you work with the IDF. And how does IDF protect its soldiers? What do you do for them? What's happening in Israel in the army?
Yeah, so I was actually called up to the IDF as a scientist, as a Technion professor. And we know today that our medical forces alone are not, they just don't have the manpower to address coronavirus themselves. And so the IDF, especially scientists like myself, were called to the IDF to help with different issues that the Army and civilians are facing. Let me give maybe two examples. So one example would be an old age home, and we faced many of these, that a coronavirus patient was in one of these old age homes, and we needed to go in and actually purify or disinfect is the better word. We needed to disinfect the rooms so that the medical personnel could go back in after this patient infected the walls and the bedding and everything. So the Army actually helped, and we made sure that the disinfection is actually good disinfection. And we had similar issues also with the homes of handicapped people. The IDF today also supplies more than 100,000 meals every day to Israeli citizens that are elder and cannot leave their homes, in order to protect them and make sure, though, that they have all their needs at home. So people where their families cannot help, the IDF steps in and helps, and everyone is doing this very, very willingly. And I assume you see the beautiful pictures of the soldiers, young soldiers that have been away from home already for more than a month and still serving families and helping a lot. I can, Sophie, if you want me to give another angle of research, or what?
Yes. So that in the meantime, I keep collecting questions for you.
Okay, so I'll do 5 more minutes of research and maybe show you a couple more scientific fronts. So I explained about the shrimp and the viral diseases in shrimp, and how we're utilizing technology there and transferring it to humans. Another area where we're also working very hardly is actually the treatment of a lung condition called ARDS. So we know that coronavirus patients suffer from lung infections. The coronavirus actually usually infects the lungs. And then one of the outcomes is a condition called ARDS, where it's very hard to breathe and the lungs are not functioning efficiently. And this just from an Israeli news outlet talking about how important it is to treat ARDS, acute respiratory syndrome in coronavirus patients. And the reason is that the lungs in a coronavirus patient actually undergo major changes that are not favorable for them. So we know our lungs can take in the air as we breathe. And it's very important that the lungs themselves are open for air to come in and for carbon dioxide to be exhaled. And inside the lungs, we have these small alveoli packs where the air comes in, and there's change of gases, meaning the oxygen comes into our bloodstream, and the carbon dioxide is let out through our breathing system. So there's a very, very thin layer of tissue where this exchange happens. The blood is in the blood vessels, the air is in the alveoli. And when we have ARDS, or when we have infections such as COVID-19 infection, this tissue, which is very thin and it's easy for the gases to diffuse through, become very, very thick and inflamed. And the patients actually cannot breathe very well. The lungs become filled with liquids, and the patients cannot actually clear their clear their blood from the carbon dioxide and cannot inhale oxygen in a proper manner. And one of the technologies we've been working at on Technion is, can we use nanotechnology in order to target the diseased lungs to improve breathing in coronavirus patients? So we know coronavirus actually infects the lungs. It's extremely infectious in the lungs themselves. It has specific receptors on the outer side of the virus, on the corona of the virus, that attach to ligands on the cells of the lungs, and that's why we need to protect our breathing ability. And once that starts, and an infection, the virus starts multiplying inside the cells of the lungs, that's when inflammation begins, and that's when the lungs start actually not performing the way we want them to. That's why we also, cough, and of course, many of the coronavirus patients need to be on breathing support to help that. And what we invented are nanoparticles. These are particles that look very much like the virus, but they're engineered in the laboratory, and they carry medicines inside them in order to counter the negative effect of the coronavirus. So I'm not talking about a vaccine, as I spoke about before. This is actually reducing the inflammation inside the lungs, so that the lungs can go back to proper function. And we invented these particles so that they're very compliant with the lung itself. And you can see here a cryo-TEM. This is an extremely advanced microscope that at the Technion. The images of these particles, you can notice that the particles look round, similar to the virus, to the coronavirus. And they even have like small perturbations on their surface. The size is about 100 nanometers in diameter as we measure. So again, very, very similar in size to the size of the coronavirus. We said about 1/1000th the width of a hair on our head. And I'll show you just the example from one experiment, still not in humans, still in the preclinical phase, but it's very, very clear. The difference is very, very clear. So let me explain, go through these slides. So the middle, these are lungs taken out from mice that were experimented. So the middle group of lungs, they were taken out of mice that are healthy mice, but got an intravenous injection of our nanoparticles. And you can notice that the lungs are pretty clear. Their color is not inflamed, as you can see on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side are healthy, lungs that are that have ARDS, but on the left-hand side are lungs that have ARDS and also were injected 24 hours ago with these targeted nanoparticles. The nanoparticles were injected intravenously to the blood vein, they circulate in the blood and they actually target the inflamed and infected lungs in order to allow us to deliver medicines directly to the lung. So the medicine is actually focused where it's most needed. So I think I'll take more questions at this point. Just another example of a technology that we're working on in the lab in order to improve the treatment of coronavirus.
Avi, we are hearing about Professor Snitman's work about the liquid foam therapy. What do you think of that? And what do you think of how it delivers the drug more efficiently into the lung? Do you talk? Are aware of all this?
Yeah, so Professor Josue Schnitzman, amazing scientist and great person. I think that's a very promising delivery system. The foam comes from the side of the breathing. In ours, it comes from the side of the blood. So again, compatible system. I think science is outstanding and it's a great approach for treating coronavirus. Sophia, I can't hear.
Sorry. Okay, it's about the airports and testing and safety. Do you think we'll see instant airport testing centers in the future in this or other viruses, the same as we saw after 9/11, which changed its security at the airport and the screening at the airport? Do you think there will be any change in health screening?
Absolutely. We're entering a new era, and this maybe relates to the question before: is this lab made or is this just a solution? I would say no matter what the answer is, we will have to screen patients for the diseases they have if they're contagious before they get on an airplane. And I don't know if it will be an app that tests you maybe 10 minutes before you get on an airplane. And if the app doesn't give you a green light, you can't get on the flight. I'm not sure what it will look like, but it probably will be something in that realm. We will have to test people entering malls, entering large areas with people. Think of going to the theater. It's enough today with coronavirus that one person is coughing there. He or she can infect hundreds of people in the audience. Think of the soccer game in Italy that actually created that great outbreak in Italy itself. Think of a soccer game in England where thousands and thousands of people come, and you only need a couple super spreaders, as they're called, to infect thousands of people in the audience. So I think we are gonna see that, and there's no way around it. And we will have to be much safer. We live pretty densely today on the globe, and we have to protect also those that are ill, but especially those that are healthy.
The first question is about how difficult it is to transfer the vaccine through the gastrointestinal system to the blood and the single cell. How complex is the delivery mechanism, you think?
Extremely complicated. That's why it took us 3 years to develop this for the shrimp. In the Technion, we're having the best scientists involved. That's why I think for coronavirus, most likely an injection such as we have for treating the flu be more promising or just more practical. And we had to overcome a lot of work in order to be able to be sophisticated enough in Via Aqua to enter the gastrointestinal tract.
Ida is asking about that she saw a boost on the streets in Israel about offering free tests. Is this happening, or is it a
no? All tests in Israel are free, but they're tightly regulated. You know, the number of tests we can run at the national level today is limited due to reagents, due to testing sites that are asserted. And for a person to be tested today, they have to be approved to be tested by a physician or by the medical system. And then once they are approved, the test can be done either at home. The special people come and actually will test them, or it's a drive-up that we do have. It's like a drive-in, like a McDonald's drive-in, and we have those too. But you have to be pre-selected. It is free, but it's not anyone at any time can come and be tested.
Our friend Kobe is asking, there are efforts to correlate existing vaccinations with the various between countries like Portugal and Spain. Are you looking into the possibility that existing vaccinations may have an effect on the reactions to the coronavirus?
So that's a very good question. Yes, so the answer is yes. I would say that I would maybe answer it slightly differently than the question. So people are actually taking existing fragments of existing vaccines so that we don't have to start like the process from zero. We're taking existing process for such as boosting the immune system or other aspects that we already know from other vaccines that have been effective and trying to do the same for coronavirus. So what we already know, we know, and that will speed up the time, because if we have to start from zero, it will take a very long time till we have a vaccine. And if we use technologies that we have already, then it can actually boost it very fast. So within a couple of months, we have a vaccine.
Ori is asking, realistically, how long do you think that it will take until we are back to our normal, sort of normal work and school routine?
Yeah, so it seems that it will take, I'll say I don't know. I'll say that I hope that it will be sooner than later, but I will say this, because there's more unknowns than knowns here, then we are trying to deal with the existing situation. I'll say what the biggest unknown is. The biggest unknown is the question we began with. The first question I got is the herd immunity. Does it work or does it not work? And if we don't have herd immunity and you can be reinfected time and time again, then it's going to be a major issue. How do we actually bring people back to work if we cannot screen people for the disease? And I think two things will have to happen. One is serology. We'll have to know who has some type of internal vaccination. And of course, a vaccine. We have to have a vaccine, and we have to invest in a vaccine. At Technion, we're working on that very, very hard. Also on the vaccination side, and also on the different aspects of treating, and also a compassionate treating of the patients. And once then we can actually go back to reality. I see we're at the top of the hour. This was really fantastic. I mean, a lot of people online. And for me, from Israel, I have to say thank you very much for taking your time and your interest, and actually your care for fellow human beings all around the world. We're all worried about this, and I think it also means we care for one another. And I just want to bless you all that you keep safe, and that you're all healthy. And for those that may be ill and are listening to our call, you recover rapidly in a good manner, so that we can all shake hands soon and see each other either in Israel or in the United Kingdom.
Professor Avi Schroeder, thank you so much for what was a fascinating and slightly too short. We could have gone on for another hour listening to it, but we need you to get back to work. I have to say, we've been celebrating our health staff all around the world. We've been clapping and recognizing the dangers that they're under and how they are our current heroes. But who we haven't been celebrating is you and your team, are the professors and the scientists around the world that we are totally reliant upon. No pressure, but without you, we're in trouble. I have to say, you and your team are the new heroes. We are fascinated by the work that you are doing, and we are totally in awe of the solutions that you are coming up with. Thank you so much for the work you're doing. Thank you for the relentless, tireless work, for the long hours that you and your team are giving in. Don't for one moment think that we're not thinking about what you're doing on every day at every moment. Thank you for giving up 1 hour of your time to explain to us the work that's going on. And if there's anything any of us can do to help and assist you or your team, other than staying at home, we got the message. Thank you. We are here to help and support. To all the people around the world that have tuned in to watch and listen to this fascinating webinar, I want to say thank you so much for coming and listening. To those in Australia and France and all around the world, the Technion is here to help and support you. Please do the same. Help and support the Technion where you can. Technion UK's next event will be on Israel's Independence Day, Yom Ha'atzmaut, on the 29th of April, where we will have politicians, the president, and some celebrities coming in to say hello. We will never stop celebrating, whether it's outdoors or it's indoors. Professor Schroeder, Jofi, thank you for being part of this. Thank you to Alan Aziz and his team at Technion UK, and stay safe. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone. Happy Passover.